Let's get Nomi into working with TYT.
Yeah.
Have her on board for like 10 months.
Gotcha.
And then get her.
Yeah, that's what we're here for.
Real manipulative.
Let's introduce Nomiki Konst. Am I saying that right? Konst. Nomiki Konst here is the textbook definition of a politics nerd. She ran for public office when she was like 12, I think.
12, yeah.
And she's worked with CNN, Fox News.
As a liberal.
Right. Yeah. And a variety of different outlets. She is probably one of the most experienced journalists we are fortunate to have on board here with TYT.
I'm so sorry.
And she just got back from England is My City, which is a meme reference for those of you who get it. And she had the pleasure of interviewing and getting to smell Jeremy Corbyn. And I want to ask you about that, and then there's a bunch of other stuff that and she's rocking his merch that he's selling like a god church.
His friends are selling. Yeah, all organic cotton. Shout out to Austin who gave me this T-shirt in Brighton. He's got a company, I forgot the name of it, but we'll get that.
Yeah, and you know what? Before we even get into that, I'm surprised you didn't come back with a British accent.
I kind of did. I pick up accents really easily. So like by the fourth day, it was like rubbing off on me. I am that person who lives in a place for 2 minutes and then becomes...
Do your best impression.
No, but it would be horrible. It's like...
Do it.
The absolute boy. Oh, Jeremy Corbyn. I can't get that out of my head.
Oh, okay. So the absolute boy.
The absolute boy.
You met him. It was great. Just give us a recounting of your experience there.
Well,
all right, you don't have
to do it in a British accent.
Don't do it.
It's really not good. It was my speech patterns were changing. I am glad nobody noticed it because I was like noticing little bits the way I spoke to people because it's not they speak English, so it's not like I have to slow my speech down for them.
It's embarrassing.
It was horrible. And if you were
also
there,
their English is the proper English, so they probably looked at you like, oh, who is this Philistine?
Basically.
Yeah.
But they're all socialists, so.
Yeah, so they were understanding
cool. They were
and
understanding
dope.
And empathetic.
Okay. So yeah, let's talk about that. A lot of people here probably don't know who the Jezza, the absolute boy, is. So just first explain that to us, like Labour Party. Just can you give us a little bit of background on that, and then we'll talk about your experience.
Yeah. So the Labour Party is obviously there's a parliamentary system in the UK, so it's very different than our system. It is one of the main parties. It was the party that's probably aligned with the Democratic Party. It was the Workers' Party originally, just like the Democratic Party was the Workers' Party originally. And both the Labour Party and the Democratic Party had an infusion, I would say a hostile takeover by the neoliberals in the early 80s until recently. And now Jeremy Corbyn...
Are you referring to the American Democratic Party, or are you referring to... Okay.
Both. So Tony Blair had this thing called the Third Way. We had the Third Way here.
Yeah.
Which was an evolution of neoliberal politics that started in the early 80s, post-Carter, when he was challenged by Kennedy. And so these little factions, the DLC, the New Democrats, they all kind of emerged together and took over as the neoliberals of the Democrats. And now, they're a minority now, but they're in control. Whereas in the Labour Party, because Jeremy Corbyn, who was an MP since 1983, a member of Parliament since 1983, very, very, very progressive, they openly use the word socialism, and it's not looked at,
Well, that's
poorly.
because they're also in the UK, where they do have a mostly democratic socialist government.
Exactly.
Nationalized healthcare, nationalized medicine, actually public, like free tuition, public universities, right?
Yep.
So that's part of the reason why they're more open-minded to even using that term. Whereas here in America, people look at that as like the weird, black mark that you're a socialist. Or what is it? I mean, I guess it's like the Red Scare.
It's the Red Scare. It's also shifting a bit.
Yeah, no, it's shifting now.
Yeah.
And I think there's obviously, and some people have talked about this, I'm just trying to conceptualize this for those in the audience that might not know. Bernie Sanders and Jeremy Corbyn, parallels have been drawn, obviously. Like, they're both, like you said, experienced within their governments. They've both been around for a very long time, but still deemed anti-establishment given the fact that their policies and their opinions were definitely more to the left when compared to everyone else.
Right.
But go on with the
and
the Corbyn story.
It was fascinating being there and seeing the excitement for Jeremy Corbyn, who is now the leader of the Labour Party.
Yeah.
Because he surprised everybody, got very close to Theresa May at 40%, and their elections are really short. They're 6 weeks or so. The money doesn't flow in the way that it does, with our elections. We're already running a presidential campaign a minute later. So they're anticipating him being the prime minister when they decide to call the elections, which could be anywhere between just a couple months from now and 4 years.
So this will be the election between Theresa May and Jeremy Corbyn and whoever else.
Unless she decides not to run and somebody else runs.
Anyway, let's not get too in-depth to British politics.
Yeah.
But still, explain to us what your experience was like.
So it was great because there were tremendous parallels. And a lot of folks were coming up to me and saying, well, you don't want to draw the parallels too close because they're not that close. But knowing the Bernie Sanders world very, very well, and knowing I'm on this Unity Reform Commission within the Democratic Party to reform the party. They're doing the same thing with the Labour Party. There are a lot of parallels. The neoliberals, what people don't realize is that the neoliberals had been in conversation with each other. They talked to other folks in other countries and had strategies to take over the party systems, like their democratic parties, in those countries and using their system to gain power. This was all strategic. It wasn't like it happened accidentally. There was a coalition of leaders, and they...
Yeah, but by the way, I personally don't think it's as nefarious or as calculated. It's more so these people have been in business with one another, and they're friends. So it's the same boys club mentality, just amongst capitalist politicians or business leaders or industry leaders that happen to be socially progressive.
Exactly.
As long as it was acceptable and polled well, but socially progressive overall when compared to Republicans. So, or whatever the Conservative Party, I guess it's the Tory
right?
Party, the Tory Party in England. Yeah, I don't think it's this weird coalition of this axis of evil style neoliberals get together and have at the Davos summit they're talking exclusively about how to take over the world. It's more hey, we've done business together. We're very like-minded. This is what we're doing in our country. You should probably think about it for yours.
But in a way, it actually is that. It's just the way that movies portray these summits. It seems very nefarious, but they do meet at the Davos summit, and they do have strategy meetings about how they can work together, and they do share contact lists, and they do have Jim Messina come over and consult with them.
I know.
It's just more open. It's not as secretive as everybody thinks. It's just right there, and you have to look for it. But that doesn't mean that we're not doing the same thing.
Yeah, so that's all good and great. So you guys talked about how you're going to spread the message of socialism in America and how we're eventually going to turn into a communist country. That's what it is, right? That's what it's all about.
Yeah, let's not transcribe this interview so that some Lindsey Graham can talk about us being communists.